Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Londi Modiko, and I am this year's RMB Talent Unlocked mentor and curator. It's been a hell of a ride, and the whole mentorship was done online due to the COVID-19 lockdown, and we've learned a lot about what technology can do for the arts. So this year's Talent Unlocked focused on 8 alumni artists who had participated in previous iterations of the program. It started in 2014, and it was then called Fresh Produce. And I think over the last 3-4 years, it's been called RMB Talent Unlocked. The 8 alumni artists that were selected this year were Rick Baloyi, Lebogang Mabusela, Noah Maobani, Zanele Mashinini, Katlego Modiri, Manyatsa Munyamani, Octavia Root, and Vanessa Ntembani. Just so everyone knows what's happening, how I'm going to do this, I've made a lot of notes and there's a lot for me to remember. So I will be glancing at my notes and at times reading them. I'm going to start off with an artist who has been very popular. I've had so many queries about Vanessa's work, which is a wonderful thing. She participated in the RMB Talent Unlocked in 2018. And what you see in front of you is a work called Do You Remember the Day at the Beach? In this body of work that she made for the mentorship, her work was to reflect on her identity in relation to her mother's experiences in Mozambique. The ocean is a central symbol in the collective memories that she might have never have access to. Her mother has shared many stories about her childhood in Mozambique in a place called Zavala. And these stories are often centered around a beach, which her mom claims her family had access to through their backyard. Vanessa's not had the opportunity to visit this beach from her mother's memories. In this body of work, she purposely used images of capulana. Capulana is a fabric that is considered to be of Mozambican tradition. She's used capulanas that belong to her mother to make these works. So the patterns that you see in the background of these works are these capulanas that were gifted to her by her mother. She manipulates and adjusts the fabrics to almost speak of the constant presence of her mother in her life. She manipulates and seeks to relate to the experiences of her mother during her childhood. And these works are kind of like a reenactment of the present, using her mother's memorabilia. Let me just scroll back to a detail of the work. Her process of making these works is very interesting. A lot of the work is digital. She manipulates photographs digitally, using these patterns from these capulana fabrics. And then once the works are printed onto fabric, she then repaints certain areas that did not translate well when the work was being printed. The next artist who's also been quite popular on the art fair is Rick Baloyi. Rick Baloyi is an artist from Limpopo. He's currently studying towards his national diploma at the University of Johannesburg. In this body of work is primarily a celebration of the matriarchs that have played a role in his upbringing in his hometown of Limpopo. He's celebrating their hard work and the various roles that they've played in the well-being of the communities in Limpopo. This is another work by Rick, and it's titled Hard Worker. A lot of Rick, let me just go back to this work. A lot of Rick's work is made of color pens and pencils on paper. And at a later stage during the mentorship, he wanted to revisit pastel pencils on pastel mat. It's harder to make drawings using pencils and pen. And I don't know if people have had the chance to look at the detailed images of these works. He's an amazing draftsman, how he manages to capture the light and the dark areas and the tonal ranges of these images that he takes of these women is absolutely amazing. As you can see, when you're using pastel, you don't have to, it's easier to achieve the detail of the work, as you can see on this work. The next artist is Manyata Munyamani. She's also a Johannesburg-based visual storyteller who's inspired by African literature and everyday surroundings. She's currently doing her master's in fine art at the University of Witwatersrand. In this series of photographs, Manyata is looking at the concept of the arranging of images in relation to Black women, their contribution, and also the displaying of images in their homes. The documentation of these homes aims to open up a conversation about the importance of the role of the placement of these forms of memorabilia in people's homes, whether it was a role given to them or whether they took it upon themselves to place these images on the walls. This body of work is basically an exploration of the choice of placement as opposed to clicking the shutter. It's looking deeper into the interaction of women and photography. This conversation discloses some hidden branches to this absence and perhaps a door of Manyata's interest in finding Black women photographers, especially Black women photographers pre-1999. This is my favorite image of hers. I think the monochromatic palette and the subtleness of the placement of the images on the windowsills and the one centered in the corner of the wall is very beautiful. It's also quite interesting. I, as a Black person, I always find it interesting when I walk into Black people's homes in terms of their choice of where these images are placed. Often it's an area in a house where there's a lot of accolades. For example, you would find the children's graduation photos around these pictures of birthday parties and so forth. We then move on to Octavia Root. Octavia Root has a BA in Information Design and is currently studying towards her master's in fine art as well. Her illustrative style marries her design training with a love for European comics. In these new works for the mentorship, she wanted to explore narratives around the end of time, an apocalypse of sorts. The stories are autobiographical. They feed off a global tension. In these narratives, the characters accept, grieve, or deny their respective apocalypses. The stories conclude with images that highlight that all things eventually come to an end, and the process and the journey towards these things coming to an end can sometimes be beautiful. I'm going to scroll down, and how do I zoom into this camera? So one could say that these works that she's made are a comic strip. And this comic strip, in a way, speaks of what has happened to humanity with COVID-19 suddenly happening, and the animals that you see in her work are almost like a metaphor for what we're experiencing being the virus. The next artist that I would like to talk about is Lebogang Mogul Mabusela, who is actually been a star on the fair. She's also featured in Professor Charlene Khan's exhibition called Woven. Lebogang Mogul Mabusela, I have to call her Mogul because that's what she wants people to call her, is an artist, and she's an artist and self-proclaimed monotype babe and Zion Queen that's based in Johannesburg and Pretoria. She also graduated with a BA in Fine Arts from the University of Witwatersrand. For this program, she made 2 beautiful, delicate paper installations that roast the logic of Black womanhood and femininity through the Black feminist lens. These 2 works that she made aim to protest the Black woman trope that is very much perpetuated by society. Although this trope is also fed by feminist values and evidence of Black women showing resilience, strength, and independence, this doesn't mean that this is their core and what they should be loved for. She's interested in highlighting the fact that Black women are also gentle, and there's this idea in society that they're not, and their mission in life is to be strong. I feel strongly about her work because I agree. This idea of Black women being strong is false. Often Black women are perceived to be strong because they put in situations that require them to be strong. It's not a choice, it's a matter of survival. If you look at what is happening with GBV, you were constantly having to fight for our existence. Back to Lebogang. So Lebogang is interested in how Black men perpetuate this strong Black woman trope while simultaneously dislike feminism, which they also benefit from. These new works incorporate flowers flowing out of guns. She is Motswana, and in Setswana, they call a gun Situnya, whilst a flower is also called Situnya. And when it blooms, the term for blooming is called Hutunya. So that's the whole play on the flowers that she's cut out and embossed, and the idea of the gun. Let me scroll down to the second one and show you detail. These works are magnificent, small in scale, but the detail is absolutely breathtaking. I don't know if you can see, but she uses lace and hand cuts these flowers that you see, and there's a lot of embossing as well on these flowers, as well as on the parts of the gun. Another artist that I am very fond of is Katlego Modiri. Katlego is also from Pretoria, also a University of Tshwane graduate. He's been a full-time artist for just over 10 years, and his work is thought-provoking and encourages introspection. In his latest body of work, Katlego Modiri's figurative drawings explore notions of our constructed identities. He's interested in modern and old social practices that humans adopt in order to feel accepted in society. His figures are distorted. They represent the discomfort we subject ourselves to when we pretend to be what we're not to feel accepted. So one could say a lot of his drawings are made organically. He's not particularly interested in depicting things as they are. And this further lets him highlight the discomfort of these humans of these people that he's trying to depict in his work. This is another work by Vanessa Ntembani, and this one is titled Zavala. And this is a portrait of her as a little girl. Zavala is the area in which her mother grew up in Mozambique. Next artist is Zanele Mashinini. Zanele Mashinini is from Johannesburg, and she's also a graduate of the University of Johannesburg. And for a while, Zanele had abandoned painting, and she happened to be in the pile of applications for fresh produce I think in its early days, I think around 2016. And I came across her portfolio and thought that her paintings were really interesting. Although it was a long time ago, I thought she had the potential to improve her work and to take it to the next level. So I thought I would include her in this mentorship. This series of paintings is a journey down memory lane. It reflects on distinctive events and moments that over the years have become the DNA of her family. It taps into themes of education, love, and religion. Her parents are a priest and a priestess. The memories, because a lot of these memories that she's depicting from family photo albums are a blur to her. She plays with the notion of erasure and ghostly depictions of certain parts of these paintings. So one could say that these paintings become a back and forth of special memorabilia that Zanele finds to be special. This work that we're looking at is from a family photo of her sister's graduation from nursery school. And the little girl in the red track pants is Zanele. Her face is not painted because she says that her memory of how she looked as a kid is quite blurred. Then move on to Noah Maobane. Noah Maobane is Pretoria-based, and he's largely self-taught, which I was so inspired by. I think he makes really amazing sculptures, and it also makes one think about the fact that there's this idea that good artists have to go to art school, and that notion is not correct. Noah's latest works take a pick on social political matters. The symbol of a dying horse or a horse that's lying down is a representation of the deteriorating moral fabric and failing policies and mediocre systems in the world right now. The elegance and grace and majestic nature of the horse as we know it is eliminated. The horse is in a state of fragility, and throughout history, we've always all seen the horse depicted as triumphant and powerful. And Noah takes all of that away from this animal that we know to be strong and beautiful. Often in his works, in his sculptures, certain features, certain body parts of the horse are not there. And that is again to speak of the idea of the notion of the meekness of the horse. And here are other works by Noah. I'm going to scroll down and share other works by Zanele. This is a painting called Ioni. Ioni is a Christian church in South Africa that dresses in these attires that she's painted. And this particular painting is her parents. We then go back to Rick Baloyi, and this drawing speaks of exactly what he was trying to convey in this body of work. It's called The Dance of Joy. And again, I feel that this is a beautiful depiction of celebrating matriarchs from his hometown. And we've reached the end of my walkabout. I'm happy to take questions. At certain points, I lost my train of thought. If you would like us to ask questions, please do.
Londi, so while we wait for questions, I have a question about what is the process of selecting the artists for R&B Talent Unlocked?
Okay, so like I said, this was an alumni program. In the past, there's been a call out, an online call out for artists to apply on, and there's a committee that's been selecting artists, but this time around, I was given the task to go through all the to go through the portfolios of all the participants since the inception of the program, I think in 2014. And from all those portfolios, I chose 8. There was input from the RMB art curator, Teresa Lisa Moore, but majority of these artists were my selection. And let me just elaborate on what the focus was on the alumni program. The curatorial aspect of the mentorship integrated practical art making, and we focused on the process of art making and conceptual development. A lot of my input was guiding the artists in terms of how they can develop their concepts and how they can improve their techniques. So for example, Zanele, prior to this, Zanele was still painting, but her subject matter was various things, and I suggested that she revisit the theme of family memorabilia. Another artist, Rick Baloyi. Rick participated in last year's Talent Unlocked, and for that Talent Unlocked, he made self-portraits of himself wearing various uniforms of careers that he could have chosen as opposed to being an artist. And from my conversation with him, he wanted to explore what he's really passionate about. And he's very passionate about the fact that he comes from Limpopo. And I thought he should revisit his passion. And he's very happy with the work that he's done. And I did give input in terms of him not only depicting women, for example, in Limpopo dressed in traditional wear, because they no longer live like that. They live in a contemporary world, and they have cell phones. They live a life that everyone lives. So I suggested that he incorporate those ideas of how these women are nowadays. I mean, like their own farms, they do all sorts of things whilst being nurturers and mothers and so forth. Does that answer your question?
That does, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll wait another 2 minutes. I'm guessing there are no questions.
None at the moment. Yeah, let's give it 1 more minute.
Okay.
Rania says thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so Londi, thank you so much for this walkabout. These
Thank you
artists
so
are
much,
so
Lauren.
varied, and the insights is always really helpful to pick up some of the nuances.
I also have to, sorry to interject, I have to mention that the response to the exhibition has been overwhelming. People have loved the exhibition, and we're all very happy about that.
Fantastic. Great. Thanks so much, Londi, and thanks to everyone who attended today. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.